You did something embarrassing 3 years ago. You barely remember the details. But at 2 in the morning, it comes back. Full scene, full cast, every single face in the room. And you lie there, replaying it, certain that everyone who was present still thinks about it too. They don't. But your brain doesn't know that. What's happening in those moments isn't weakness. It isn't anxiety spiraling out of control. It's one of the oldest survival systems in your body running exactly the way it was built to run. The machinery is ancient. The social math is automatic. And understanding why it works this way changes everything about how you see yourself. Here's the thing about your brain. It evolved in a world where being liked was not optional. For most of human prehistory, you lived in a band of somewhere between 50 and 150 people. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, who spent decades studying the relationship between brain size and group complexity in primates, found that this number, roughly 150, appears to be the cognitive upper limit for stable human social relationships. You could meaningfully track about 150 people, know their alliances, remember their grudges, predict their behavior. In that world, every one of those 150 people had the power to change your life. They could share food with you or withhold it. They could include you in a hunting group or leave you out. They could speak in your defense when conflict arose, or they could stay silent. Social acceptance wasn't about feeling good. It was about surviving the winter. So your brain evolved a system, an automatic, always running, deeply prioritized system for monitoring your social standing. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman, who wrote extensively on the neuroscience of human connection, called this the social brain, a dedicated neural network that processes social information with the same intensity your ancestors used to track physical threats. Being excluded from the group, Lieberman found, activates the same regions of the brain that process physical pain. Rejection isn't a metaphor for pain. In the brain, it is pain. Think about what that means. When you feel embarrassed or left out or quietly worried that someone is annoyed with you, your brain is not overreacting. It is running an ancient calculation. Does this change my standing? Am I still in? Because in the world your brain was built for, that question had real consequences. Now bring that forward to today. You're in a meeting, you say something, it lands wrong, or maybe it lands fine, but you can't tell. Someone looked away, or didn't laugh, or had an expression you couldn't read. And immediately, without any decision on your part, your brain logs it, flags it, returns to it. Not because you're insecure, because you have a primate brain doing what primate brains do. This is what psychologists call the spotlight effect. Thomas Gilovich at Cornell University ran a series of experiments in the 1990s that showed people dramatically overestimate how much others notice and remember their actions, their mistakes, their appearance. In one study, participants were made to wear an embarrassing t-shirt and then enter a room of strangers. They predicted that roughly half the people in the room would notice and remember the shirt. The actual number? About a quarter. The spotlight you feel burning on you is real to you. But other people are too busy running their own social calculations to focus on yours. Still, knowing this intellectually doesn't turn off the feeling, because the feeling isn't coming from your rational brain. It's coming from something much older. Psychologists call it sociometer theory. The idea, developed by Mark Leary at Duke University, is that self-esteem isn't really about how you feel about yourself. It's a gauge. A continuous internal meter that tracks how accepted you appear to be in your social environment. When the gauge drops, when you sense disapproval, distance, or rejection, it fires an alarm. Urgency. Review the interaction. Find out what went wrong. Adjust. Your self-esteem is not a reflection of your worth. It is a real-time social threat detector. And it is exquisitely sensitive, because in the world your ancestors lived in, a small dip in social standing could cascade. If one person turned against you, it could shift alliances. If you were seen as unreliable or strange, the group might slowly, quietly exclude you. And exclusion, at that scale and in that era, was not something you recovered from easily. So the system errs toward vigilance. It over-monitors. It replays. It asks, what did that look mean? Why didn't they text back? Was I too much? Was I not enough? These are not random anxieties. They are the outputs of a calibration engine that hasn't been updated since the Pleistocene. Here's where it gets stranger. The brain doesn't just track how others see you, it simulates them. There's a region of the brain called the default mode network that activates when you're not focused on any task, when you're daydreaming, drifting, resting. For a long time, neuroscientists assumed this network was simply idling. It wasn't. When researchers began studying what the default mode network actually does during rest, they found that it runs social simulations. It imagines other people, models their reactions, rehearses future conversations, replays past ones. Your brain's version of rest is thinking about people. This is why you can't fully stop. Even when nothing has gone wrong, even on a good day, your mind returns to social territory. Did that go well? What will she think? How did that come across? It isn't rumination as failure. It is the brain doing exactly what it evolved to do with downtime. But here's the counterintuitive part. The same system that makes you hyper-aware of judgment is the same system that makes you capable of deep empathy, of reading a room, of understanding what someone needs before they say it. The sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's the other side of the same coin. The problem is not that the system exists. The problem is context collapse. Your social brain evolved for a group of 150 people in a relatively closed world. Today, a single moment of yours can be seen by thousands, sometimes millions. A post, a comment, a video. The exposure your ancestors experienced in a lifetime, you can experience in an afternoon. And the social brain doesn't have a setting for that. It treats every observer the same way, as a tribe's member whose opinion could shift the balance. This is why social media is so viscerally destabilizing for so many people. It's not just that it's designed to capture attention, it's that it feeds raw numbers directly into a system that was never built to process them. Likes, views, reactions, these are not neutral data points. They are social signals your brain treats as real-time status updates. And when they fluctuate, so does the meter. Leary's sociometer fires whether you asked it to or not. So what do you do with this? Understanding the mechanism doesn't silence it, but it changes the relationship. When you catch yourself replaying that conversation, or dreading a social interaction, or quietly scanning for signs of disapproval, you're not broken. You're not failing at confidence. You are a social animal running ancient software in a world it wasn't designed for. The gap between the system you have and the world you live in, that gap is where most of the anxiety lives. And maybe that's worth something. Because the question is not how to stop caring what people think. Humans were never built for that. The question is, which people and why, and what does it actually cost you when they see you clearly? Your ancestors carried their entire social world in their heads. They had to. Their lives depended on it. You carry yours too. And tonight at 2 in the morning, when that old memory surfaces, some stumble, some silence, some moment you can't quite leave behind, what's replaying isn't shame. It's proof that you were built to belong.